Hi, everyone. So I'm going to talk briefly today about all the stuff that's going on in the world and to give you a glimpse of the beauty within what is going on, within the tragedy, what apparent stupidity on so many levels, people living in literally alternate realities where their beliefs separate them from other people. And it's like there is so much regression happening in terms of us appearing to be going back to be driven by tribal differences. Now, part of the beauty of that is it's going to lead to a breakdown of us being driven on an emotional level. Firstly, driven by our emotions. And particularly, the breakdown is going to happen in to be driven by our emotions to separate into rival groups that are fighting each other for dominance. And what will be born out of that is a greater emotional clarity. But the first thing to recognize is for thousands of years and right now, people to varying degrees are allowing themselves or being driven by emotion. And it is so deep and entrenched in us that even people who are going, I'm not emotional, that's being driven by emotion. I'm being driven by the fact I'm not emotional, rather than going, I'm an emotional being. And this can drive me, but I've also, at that point in history, where I can make choices and I can open up and learn how to use this as a way of becoming more aware, more effective at dealing with change, more intimate in my communications with people who I'd normally be in conflict with, so we can discover the links based on real love, not romantic idealism but real, the emotion of love. And then with that, tap into a whole new way of relating to each other as a community of individuals who work together for everyone's benefit. In other words, we bring our unique individual gifts that are respected and looked for by people to the table. We resolve the differences. We use those differences to come up with more creative solutions, and then create a whole new way of relating as a community. Now, I did a podcast, first of my really in-depth podcasts, with a woman yesterday, and that'll be out in the next, it's already on the YouTube channel, but I'll be promoting it in the next couple of days, where we discovered that we're both building communities in very different parts of the world, Nicaragua and Thailand. And we were playing with this, and it became obvious to us that rather than being stuck in one area, we can have a very strong community here and then go and visit other communities and share what we have, who are very different, and share what we have with them and take what they teach us and bring it back to our community. And that very night, I happened to see on television a program about a group of Maori in New Zealand, in the North Island of New Zealand, Maori community, very, very strong, very tight, very connected. And the teenagers there raised a whole bunch of money and went to, I think, Paris or London, I missed that little bit, and came back and shared how it had changed their idea and their understanding, how much they'd grown. And they brought that back to the community, but rather than rip their community apart, it made it stronger. And the people they met in Paris or London, they were like crying when they were going because they wanted to learn more about their community. And that's going to create a whole new level of relating in this world. Because at the moment, particularly with people who see the world differently, who come from different points of view, and a lot of this has been manipulated for vested interests benefit, but that's got a very short shelf life as well. It just doesn't work these days, or it will work short term, but long term, it's unsustainable. So our relationships seem to be tearing us apart, not just in America, but it's affecting everything globally. You know, COVID is sort of pulling us away from our normal relationships, isolating us. But then there's all these new possibilities that are going to emerge out of those people who see this as a creative situation. So to give a sense of how deep this is going to go, how chaotic it can get, how very different the world is going to be over the next few years, and yet how incredibly creative and beautiful and bringing about genuine change that can lead to far more intimate connections between people from very different backgrounds with very different ways of looking at the world, and how that eventually is going to, over the next couple of decades, lead to a real evolution in the way humanity relates to each other. And our emotions are going to be relational skills that we use for building more intimate, more varied, more diverse relationships, rather than something that drives us into emotional reactivity or response, or just you either fit in or you're out of, you know, get out of here, or I'm going to kill you, or I'm going to, you know, put you out of my life. Which, with a world filled with so many human beings who are so connected, is just a really short-term and unsuccessful way to go. It's going to waste immense human resources rather than tap into the vast human resources that we haven't tapped into yet. And so just looking at what's happening, I'm going to share the screen of the current transits in the human design chart. Now, what I want you to notice is very simple. Right up here, you have a gate 61. 61 is what marries logic here, and abstract or imaginative thinking together into really knowing. But the simplest thing is, it's the way we deal with and how we know how to deal with the pressure of our imagination, our logic, and all the imagination and logic and opinions and ideas and everything of everybody around us, and even on other levels. It's how we connect with, at least on an ideal level, or an abstract story level, with forces that are greater than us, all the way to what we call the divine. Now, the planet Pluto, which is very much about slow but authentic and deep and profound change. Now, that change starts with death that leads to rebirth. in a regenerated form filled with new life. So things die and are then reborn in a form filled with new, regenerated, re-energized form that's filled with new life possibilities. And there are a couple of other levels, but they're all fancy words, and I'm going to leave that out. It enables us to leave the past behind, be reborn in new, fresh ways, and live life differently. In terms of connecting mentally to the world and the people around us. And Pluto's been in there since late 2017, and it kicks out of there. Let me just look where I wrote it down. Mid-March, it goes into gate 60, which is right down the bottom. So there's this big, deep and profound, authentic death, rebirth, regeneration process grinding away for 2.5, 3 years now. And it's all been shaking us up mentally, and particularly how we relate to each other on a mental level, including through social media, technology, all the different cultures, from cultural enrichment to cancel culture. You know, we're really being shaken up and transformed and challenged to get absolutely authentic and real, and to die to the past so we can be reborn in a regenerated form filled with new life. So this new reality people have been talking about for a long time, decades, even hundreds and thousands of years, but particularly the last 50 years. You know, we're mentally in the right place. We're not just idealizing it and trying to impose it mentally on others or getting everyone to agree to the same thing. It's like, whew, we've cleared our heads and we're ready to know things in a new way. We're willing to reassess our logic, reassess our imagination, and understand things, know things in a fresh, open, alive way. So it's been quite stressful, and we've been under a lot of pressure for the last couple of years mentally. And then Pluto moves in mid-March, and then till mid-June, we get the first taste of it. Then it jumps back up here until 2022, February to September. Oh, sorry, it jumps up back up here till February in 2022. So Pluto comes back from mid-June for, say, six or 8 months back up in here at the second half of this year, and then comes back in 2022 for most of the year, pops out a little bit in September, October, and then from November, it's here for a couple more years, 2-3 years, which means we're getting to the end of the mental shake-up and getting ready to be really shaken up physically in the physical world. Now, the shake-up is a death that leads to rebirth in a regenerated form filled with new life. So it's not shake-up for no reasons, no reason at all. It's hey, it's time to shake things up. Now, if you go, okay, I've got to open my mind. If the last couple, 2 or 3 years have opened your mind to different points of view, different cultures, different people, different understandings, then you've probably learned a hell of a lot, even in the midst of all the things that are going on, being locked down, all the political changes, all the economic changes, having to rethink the way you run your business if you've still got one, having to look at who are benefiting and who are losing, and then looking at how can we restructure that in a way that is not imposed, but naturally includes everybody, gives everyone a chance to bring their power and their strength and their gifts and their talent to the table. So then this year we get a bit of a shake-up, and then next year onwards, it's like the physical world's going to get a good shake. And the strategy is very simple. Now, this is right in the background. It's not what's up in social media, what's on TV. It's what's going on in the background behind all the other stuff that's going on. And there's quite a few layers of that down, which I'll go into at another time. But this Pluto thing is going, are you mentally flexible and open enough, or even creative enough within your own particular way? Because some people have a gift for thinking in a very particular way, but are you open enough to reset that, rearrange that, take it to a new level, or just be open if yours is more an open gift of appreciating things mentally? Are you willing to really open up to whole new possibilities? And that's what we're going through at the moment. And you can see the more a person resists the shake-up, the more entrenched they become, because they have to hold their position. The more you go, okay, you know, I thought this the beginning of the year, and now I'm looking at life in a different way. My particular experience is I've grown up more in the last year, maybe the last 15, 18 months, than I have in the previous 18, 36 years. You know, it's just, and it's shaken up my life, even literally on a physical level, but based in, you know, I had 2 epileptic seizures, and it's, well, that's what the doctors think it is. And it's, you know, it just shifted everything instantly. And it brought about physical changes. But most of the stress for the real authentic change has been mentally based. That's where it's going on. And it's coming out in all sorts of defensive or offensive ways. And in the middle, when you've got the balance, it's coming out in a, wow, I'm seeing things in a whole new, fresh way, or I'm marketing myself differently, or taking my relationship to a new level, communicating more authentically with my partner, seeing where my life is really at, and going, and who, not who I'm going to cancel and who I'm going to hold tight, but who can contribute and whose job is to contribute elsewhere. Who am I tight with? Because we can work together incredibly efficiently for everyone's benefit. And who, well, they mean well, but they've got their own thing to do, or they're really entrenched, or they're really certain about certain things, and it doesn't help what I'm doing, what the people around me are doing. So let them sort their own stuff out. It's not about rejecting them as human beings. It's not about calling them terrible. It's just going, okay, if this isn't good for me, I'll give you the space to do your own thing, and I'll keep out of your space so you can work it out. You've got great intentions, keep me up to date, but you know, you're working on this thing, I'm working on this, maybe one day we can link them up. And other people, it's like, damn, and this is right for us to work together. It's just so synchronous. And all the while respecting this as human beings sorting out their vision for life and what they know is right for them. Well, exactly the same things dropping down into the physical world. And if you, from March to mid-June, mid-March to mid-June, if you can look at what needs to change in your world, how are things, now it's not going to be the whole of it. There's a few years of it to go in that gate 60, as they call it in human design. And in the process, Pluto's going to move into Aquarius, which is going to do a whole other scene. And then leading to it moving into gate 41, which is the initiation of a whole new deal, which I won't go into now, but big changes ahead. And that's even being triggered at the moment by Jupiter and Saturn being in gate 41, all of which is technical talk for those nerds out there or those people who understand it. But things are moving, so things can truly change, not just idealistically, but we can get some clarity mentally to deal with the massive shakeup that's going to happen physically this year and in the next 3 to 4 years to go, where it's just, here's the solution. It can be as scary as hell. You can resist like crazy, or you can jump in and agree with me and run around in circles and go, yeah, let's do it. Whether you believe in a greater power than yourself, something divine or not, even that doesn't matter. It makes a difference, but you can still jump in there. As long as you believe there's a part of you that exists that knows way more about who you are, where you came from, what your connection, why you're here on this earth, and what you bring to the civilizing influences in our world, so that we don't lose our tradition, we are in touch with nature and the earth, and we can work together to create a more civilized civilization, one where humanity benefits from each other. Human beings can feel safe to love and safe to be powerful. You're not going to get the hell kicked out of you for daring to speak your mind or be a powerful person or to show your power. In fact, people are going to appreciate it and go, come on, bring it. And okay, that's really different, but how does that change what we're doing? And how can we work with that? And then people go, oh, I don't have to fight you. We can collaborate. Who knows where that could lead? And we can enrich each other. And it won't be imposed. It'll be like, they're not attacking me. In fact, they're respecting me. Well, what about all these defenses I've built up and all these other, I can keep them because it's good to take care of yourself, but I can at least begin to explore where we can work together. Just started to rain, you might be able to hear it in the background. And the key is to connect with that part of you, the greater part of you. You might call it your higher self. In fact, it's a damn good description of it. It's the part of you that knows all the other parts of you that you don't know, that are really significant and really great about you, and also knows all the other stuff about you, the not so great stuff about you, and understands why it's there, why you're dealing with it, what's in place, and how to relate to something that is divine, something that's a greater power, which means you can plug in and you're not just on your own. You're not just using your own energy, you're using the energy of nature, the energy of the world, the energy of the universe, the energy of God, whatever you want to call it. Take it as deep as you want to take it. Make it as real as you want to make it. Working with your, I'll call it the higher self, with your higher self, bringing your own creativity to the table and then asking them to contribute their perspective, not to run your life, but to bring their wisdom to the table, and then combine your creativity and the best of you and even some of the worst of you, and heal it so you become more connected to power and stronger, and then weave that together with their wisdom, with their understanding, with their insight, and take responsibility for creating something physically in the world that shakes things up, that brings solutions, that creates new possibilities, that enriches the lives of those you care for or those you choose to care for. Whether that be a whole country, all humanity, your family, the community, or homeless people, or, helping the rich get off their high horse and, start enjoying their life in an authentic way, and, or helping very talented people work with very gifted people, work with very unusual people, work with people who seem very ordinary. Because when you get to know even the most ordinary person, there's something exceptional in every human being. And giving it the space to come out and reveal itself will literally blow your mind. That's why we've spent 3.5 years shaking up our minds. So at least, even if we're resisted the whole way, when something comes along that speaks to our heart, I'll let go of all this pressure. At least for that I will. And you open up. So, key, co-creating, which means you need to find your unique power and creativity. Find what's great about you. Find how to turn your negativity into positivity, and then change yourself inside, change the world around you, find what's significant, find what's great about you, and then do it out of love. Not out of, I need attention. Because if you do all those things before, you will not need attention. You will get attention because what you have to bring to the table is exceptional. But to do that authentically, open up to not just the concept, but the physical expressions of your higher self as they would show up in your everyday life. And the question to ask is this. This is what I'm interested in and fascinated by. But just imagining that I do have a part of me that really understands me and my life in all its aspects, big picture, comprehends all of what I ever have and will be, what I'm capable of. How would it deal with this situation? That's the question. It's like, how would you deal with this? And just throw it up there and see what happens when you're sleeping, when you're meditating, what shows up on TV. Invite it in. Say, give me some input. Now, some people do that through prayers, through ritual, through any number of ways, but find your own way. Well, I don't believe in all that stuff, but I love trees. Well, go out and hug a tree or chop a tree and make something really useful out of it. And plant a couple more so you can both have the shade and, if you need something, build another useful thing with it, like a boat or a house. Tap into what you see in the physical world that triggers the very, very best in you. If it's the ocean and surfing, if it's the mountains, if it's the cool, jumping into ice water like Wim Hof does, or, sailing around the world, or helping out. I have a friend in New York who, her vision, as she establishes, she's quite young but very successful, and as she establishes that, I asked her, what are you going to do? And she said, I want to help homeless people, because she's understood enough about that to realise that a lot of them, just a whole series of circumstances leads them to be there. They don't just fall out of the window one day high on drugs and forget to go back home. A lot of them can really be helped. My friend Rebecca has her community in Nicaragua. I've got my community in Thailand. So how would the greatest part of you that you can imagine, and even beyond that, the part of you that imagines you, how would that deal with this situation? How would it take this chaos, or how would it take my physical house, my family, my business? How would it take that? What would it do with it? What would it create with that? I've got my ideas. How would you add to that? What new insights, what new perspectives? Not as a desperate gamble, but as something out there is just begging to help me. I'm open enough. I've been shaken up enough just to give it a chance, open up mentally, and let it give me some very, very tangible physical things that I can do, that I can focus on, that I can limit myself to, that will bring about significant change in my life and give me more access to enjoying being alive, to turning limitations into maximizing my potential, to really realizing, and this is that I not only do I have the ability to manifest, but I can reassess my world, my physical world, and go, what can I manifest that's unique, that will really change things? What do I bring to the table as an easy way of relating to it that will really make a difference? In other words, what's worth me putting my life force energy into manifesting that will really bring about significant change? I'm limited. Okay, limited to what? Let your higher self say, I limited you so that you could focus on this. You could concentrate on that and open up so much possibility in this area. That's what you're great at. That's your great work. So in the midst, you're going to experience, I do anyway, unless you're trying to numb yourself out from the world, you're going to experience the ups and downs of the changes and the revelation of how people are actually working or not working together in the world, people's upset with each other. All of that eventually will lead to depression in one form or another, personally or on a global scale, because that's where it's heading. It will create depression. But that's not its inevitable outcome. That's the outcome of resisting the shake-up. The other option is greater creative expression, taking the shake-up and not going down the I'm in control until things collapse, but going down, wow, this is putting me in a highly creative situation. What can open up from there? How can we express ourselves more productively, more intimately, more effectively, in ways that bring us together, keeps the sacredness of our communities, but those communities are enriched by all the other communities? How do we not only bring out the very best in ourselves, but our relationships, our families, our communities? They're just various forms of human being. There's the individual, then there's the relationship, then there's the family, then there's the community. Bring the best out of the individual, bring that to the relationship, bring the best out of the relationship, bring that to the family, get the best out of the family, bring that to the community. You get great communities, strong, healthy, where the kids in their teens are going, I'm so lucky, like the Maori kids I was watching on TV last night. They knew They were so blessed to be, they kept saying it independently interviewed. They kept saying over and over again, I'm so lucky. I'm so blessed. I'm so proud of my community because of the tradition they have built right through that and the freedom they're given, but also the responsibility they're given. And then they took responsibility for raising the money so they could go to other communities on other side of the world and enrich them and bring the richness of those communities back to their lives and to their community. And the elders were just off their heads with pride at what the kids were doing. The parents were like concerned but excited, but the older woman who spoke, it was like, I've got a reason. These kids are just giving me the reason to live. This is fantastic. I love what they're doing. It's so wise what these kids are doing. She constantly kept telling them how cool they were, how great they were, encouraging them and pointing out, helping them with their mistakes. And this is where to go. This is the wisdom that this shake-up, it's taking humanity and say, stop the freaking hell fighting the hell out of each other, being emotionally driven by, look, survival, you need to know how to survive. You need to know how to live. There's many things we need to have. We need to know how to relate. But we need to learn how to work together. Not impose an ideal where everyone's equal. Not have certain people rich beyond their wildest dreams and other people struggling like hell. Both of them are just extremes. We need individuals to thrive, to create thriving relationships, families, communities, countries, humanity. And it starts with you, and it'll ripple out and benefit even the vested interests. If you come up with something that's better than what they have, and don't try and throw them out, but infuse them with it. You know, I'm not saying they're all going to go down smiling. Not at all. You know, this is humanity and it's very complex and there's a hell of a lot of stuff to sort out and a lot of pain out there. But the pain's a part of life, but it was never meant to be this painful, which is one of my greatest teachers kept saying over and over again. We don't need this much pain. You know, pain can, how can I put this? I wrote it down somewhere. Pain can turn into joy. Hurting each other can turn into wondering what we could possibly do together. Hurt done can turn into giving love. I've done hurt. I've hurt myself. I've hurt other people. But it can turn into giving love. So looking at that pain and just reducing it down to the level where it helps us, it works for us. It says, hey, you've hurt yourself here, or this needs attention. That's what pain's for, or don't go and do that again. Like fear is meant to be a protection mechanism, not something to manipulate people with. You know, it's meant to be, the fear needs to come down to making sure you take good care of yourself. And being circumspect about doing new things, so you don't necessarily just throw yourself into something that could be very dangerous or hurtful or stupid, you know. Right? Fear can teach you respect. It's a beautiful thing as long as it's not, you know, like too much ice cream or too many drugs or, you know, getting drunk every night. A little bit goes a long way. And this is what we're creating now. the chaotic circumstances, the shake-up to loosen us up mentally, to maybe wake us up mentally as to how we have been living for not just the last couple of years, but for the last thousands of years. And then shake up our physical world so we can live in a much more, where we honour our tradition, where we love and work with the land, so the land is enhanced by our presence and we are enhanced by being in contact with nature and the earth. And we work together in a way that not only civilises us, but allows us to work together and see what's possible when human beings combine their potential. What's possible to sustain over a long time. Many great changes have happened by people coming together, but usually they're not sustainable. How do we do it in a way that is sustainable, where each generation grows to the next, to the next, to the next, in a sustainable way, where pain and fear serve their place, where ego has its place, but it's not trying to run the show, where greed is just a stupid approach. Why would you do that? It creates so much lack, even for the people who've got all, it doesn't allow the very best in you to blossom and thrive. So I've just got the idea come in that I've been talking for a long time. And if this has helped you, great, let me know. If you like more of it, I'm doing a ton of this at the moment. And I'm speaking very much from my heart about what I know is real in 72 years of my life, knowing we're going into the most challenging time in human history, but also the most rewarding time if you can let yourself be shaken up and then tap into your creativity and ask the highest part of you to help you, that even when you're on your own, you're not on your own. And have that higher part of you talk to your God, your creator, your higher power, because it knows what to ask for. It knows what you truly came here to do. And it knows how to not only love yourself, but how to bring what you have to other human beings so that you can love them and receive the rewards that brings into your life, that fulfill you on a level that nothing else, no accumulation of anything can possibly match, that bring you true fulfillment as a human being living a human life. So it's been a pleasure talking to you. It's such a joy to do this, and hopefully we'll talk again soon. And if you want to contact me or follow up any further, there'll be stuff below where you can. Talk soon.